James Tennyson, a former foe of yourself, fighting this weekend, Friday evening on the
Yeah.
Billy Joe Saunders Martin Murray undercard. He's fighting a guy called Josh O'Reilly, 16-0 from Canada. We don't really know much about him. You had said to me off camera or before we started recording, don't really know too much about this fella. What are your thoughts like going into this fight for Tennyson? What are your thoughts like?
Well, Tennyson is a very humble fella. What I gather from, and he head screwed on. He doesn't let the fucking fame get to his head. It doesn't get the failure go to his heart. So I don't believe he'll overlook this fella. Tennyson stop him. I don't know much about the fella. I just heard he's a boxer, but not a great boxer. Not much head movement, moves in the back foot. It just sounds like it's an easy night for Tennyson, if you ask me. Tennyson, but probably the bout and we understand Tennyson's not a great boxer, but he has a fucking good thumb and he just wear you down. So I think it would be an interesting fight. It wouldn't surprise me Tennyson stops him winning 4 rounds. I'd like to see Tennyson. I'd love to see Tennyson win the world title. And like I said, he's not a friend of mine, and like I said, he beat me, and I still love to see him win a world title. You know, he's a fucking nice fella. Yeah. He's had the short end of the stick a good few times. He's gone to the backyards against I went up to his hometown, but he was the B side. He fought Martin J. Ward. He's the B side. Like he's had a few hard fights, and he's fucking pulled the rabbit out of the hat. You know?
Every time, yeah. I think it's hard. It's hard not to be like a massive fan of James Tennyson now going forward, and maybe even for someone like yourself who's
personality. So that's why I don't think he's further than what he should be. If he had a more of a speaking pro, he could speak a bit more. He'd grab more attention. But that's just him, man. He's a quiet fella, and that's why I personally like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but maybe at the same time, on the flip side of that, he's kind of his ability in the ring, or not even his ability, but the fact that he's knocking everybody out. Like, let's kind of call a spade a spade. Like, keep it simple. He's knocking everyone out, and he's very entertaining to watch.
Yeah,
like,
he is.
That's probably why he doesn't even necessarily need to start doing any talking. Do you know what I mean?
But even before he was knocking people out, because when I fought him, he was known as a big puncher, but he was on the down spiral. Like, his career wasn't really going a whole lot. His manager Mark at the time wasn't in with Eddie, so he had no kind of some sort of big backing, and he still wasn't that. So that's just him as a person. He's just a quiet, humble, nice fella. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and he's a hard.
What do you think of the route that they're pushing him down the WBA? Obviously, with this guy Josh O'Reilly, we don't know too much about Josh O'Reilly, but as I say, like, from what you've heard, from what I've looked into and researched, it does seem like Tennyson is a heavy favourite here. So,
yeah.
And I don't mean that to be in any way kind of disrespectful towards Josh O'Reilly, because he could be really good. Like, we don't actually know. But
we'll know this week.
We'll know this week, man. We'll know on Friday. But what do you think of the route, like the kind of pushing for the WBA and trying to really get high up the WBA, I think, quite quick and maybe force a mandatory seems to be the route that they're pushing in. What do you think of that route from?
He has nothing to lose on him because he's not an English fighter, so he's not going to bring a big crowd. And he's a great fighter. So Eddie would be no problem fucking him into for the WBA shot against... Who has it? Lopez doesn't have it, does he?
Teofimo Lopez has the WBA title now because he won it from... That's the super title. And Gervonta Tank Davis has the regular title.
Eddie would be delighted for him and Tennyson to fight either or them, you know what I mean? Now, Mark would obviously be happy as well, but... Listen, he could beat him, man. I don't know, man. I think he got found out against Farmer. His boxing ability is limited. I personally thought, like, if you rated me, if you gave me 10 out of 10 for my boxing ability, just say you did, or even 9 out of 10, or even 7 out of 10, I'd still say he was a lot lower levels than me in boxing ability. So, but mate, he fucking grafts, he punches, he has that big punch, and he's getting better as he moves in the weight. I mean, so I think, listen, he's fought for a world title. He wants another world title. I'd like to see him get it. It's a hard decision, but it's not impossible for him.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's a really, really hard decision. And I suppose the reason that I was kind of looking at the routes was that if you're fighting guys who maybe turn out to not be the biggest opposition in the world, now, as I say, Josh O'Reilly might end up being that.
Yeah.
But it's a very big gap to the top of the division then. You know what I mean? Like the likes of Lopez, Tank Davis, I mean, even Luke Campbell, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Jorge Linares, like these are like the best fighters in the world. Like, it's a big gap. So I was kind of thinking like the route I liked for him, which Eddie mentioned after the last fight against Gavin Gwynn, was kind of the European title route. Patera was the European champion at that stage.
Yeah.
Has a few losses, but he's kind of, we know his level. He's been on TV. He's boxed, beaten, and lost to good fighters. You know, that kind of way. Like maybe it's easier to judge where you're at when you're fighting guys like that.
Eddie promotes him now, but he doesn't bring a big crowd. Eddie looks after people who bring big crowds. You know what I mean? And for them to do that, you have to really be English. Tennyson's fucking from Northern Ireland, so he's not massive crowd over. Maybe I don't think you'll ever see anyone like. Sorry about that.
No worries. Say that again.
This phone's just about to go dead. Eddie doesn't it promotes him, but like I said, he doesn't bring a big crowd, and I don't think anyone will ever replicate what Frampton did. So I think Eddie's not afraid to take big chances with him. You know what I mean? He doesn't have the mollycoddle. At the end of the day, Tennyson's still young enough, but there's no need to mollycoddle him. He's had to be in the deep water enough times. He's had to pick up a few losses. He's not afraid of fighting. Yeah. Fuck him in the deep end. Why not, man? Let him sink or swim, you know what I mean? And I believe he's woman fucking more times than everyone thought he was going to sink, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's a good argument.